5th of January, 1945. Monday.
Miksha Fenyu.
66-year-old writer, lawyer. Haransky Street 11. Clary, dressed as a Red Cross nurse, ventured on foot all the way to Newgati railway station, passing through Curtis Street and Jokai Square. Civilians do not walk the streets, the shops are closed or torn apart by bombs. In some shops where anything remains, the Arrow Cross men are looting and carrying off the goods. The buildings are in ruins or heavily damaged, even the intact ones are without windows. Telephone wires are tangled everywhere, and corpses lie scattered at every step. At Jokai Square, burials were taking place, 3 bodies to a grave. Further along, on Gyar Street, mutilated civilian corpses were being pushed on carts toward a cemetery in another square. Streets leading into the boulevards were blocked. In the middle of one street lay a gutted horse, disemboweled by bomb fragments, a symbol of this city. News. The Germans are evacuating Pest, retreating to Buda, blowing up the bridges behind them, and joining forces with German troops advancing from the west to defeat the Russians. Or perhaps not, according to another report, the Germans are not evacuating Pest because the relief army is already just below Buda. They will cross the Danube and drive the Russians out of Pest as well. Jossi was visited by one of his former 8th grade students, who now serves with a group of 16 to 18-year-old Levente boys. They were deployed near the Kellenfold railway embankment. Out of 180 boys, 60 were killed, 60 wounded, and now the remaining 60 are holding the line.
János Pentelényi.
34-year-old engineer, at the WM factory. Buda, District 2, Ulas Avenue 17, now Shilogi Ersabit Avenue. At 6 a.m., we set out on our long journey. We said goodbye to our families, unsure if we would ever see them again. Gunfire could be heard from Varos Major, but we assumed that in the twilight, we would not be visible. The houses along Retek Street provided some cover, and we reached the heavily snow-covered Sina Square without incident. Everywhere, the sight of destruction greeted us. The Turek Bastia building lay in ruins after a bomb hit, and we struggled to cross the road amidst the wreckage and fallen tram wires buried in the deep snow. Hearing the loud droning of airplanes, we froze and, on Deans's advice, turned back to Retek Street. After walking for a while, I suggested that we should continue to Seppel and not let the initial bad impressions deter us. We pressed on. Salagani Street and F Street were crowded with wagons, cars, and artillery in chaotic disarray, all heavily covered in snow. In F Street, horses and billeted soldiers occupied the ground floor rooms of banks and cafes. The windows, long shattered by air pressure, revealed starving horses gnawing on the window frames. We crossed the chain bridge at a brisk pace, avoiding the grenade holes in the road. In Pest, we found the usual signs of a city under siege. The inner city was a packed military camp filled with supplies and immobilized tanks and vehicles, all stuck due to a fuel shortage. Cannons, tanks, and cars were everywhere, crowded into the shadows of palaces and storefronts, along with an assortment of wagons. On Loniai Street, we spotted a fire engine from Seppel and managed to climb onto its footboard. Battling heavy snow and bitter cold, we finally reached Seppel. There was calm there, though the nearby artillery fire was unsettling. At the WM factory, Weiss Manfred Steel and Metal Works, later Seppel Works, Arrow Cross members scurried about, moving machines into the cellars to establish makeshift workshops. This was the only functioning munitions factory in the encircled city. Allegedly, 21 centimeters shells were transported directly from the workshop to the front lines on wagons and immediately fired. The front line ran along the southern edge of Seppel village, near the cemetery. In a bunker, our exemption was extended by 1 week. I received 3 2-kilogram loaves of bread on my ration tickets, which I quickly packed into my backpack. In the drafting office cellar, we carried tables and chairs, while a few colleagues sketched on makeshift drawing boards. We soon began our journey home. Along the way, we encountered a lieutenant we knew, who invited us into a house serving as a military headquarters. A few cheerful Hungarian soldiers were drinking heartily from a bottle of brandy. They poured a generous amount for us too, laughing as they pointed toward the end of the street, saying, "The Russians are already there." Shells were falling nearby, but we pressed on. A car with its last bit of fuel was heading for Budapest. We squeezed in among the soldiers with our large packages. I crouched over my backpack on the car floor, completely hunched over. As the car started, the soldiers cursed, and the mood was grim. Pessimistic remarks filled the air. After a reckless and uncertain drive, we somehow made it back to Cell Kalman Square. At home, we were greeted with great joy, and with the bread.
Lajos Nagy.
61-year-old writer and bookstore owner. Pest, District 6. At noon today, a woman's corpse was carried past our house on a stretcher. Women were carrying the stretcher, and one said to the other, "Be careful, don't let her fall, she's already in pieces, poor thing." We are increasingly preoccupied with the issue of cleanliness. But we only talk about it. During these discussions, the decent tenants gossip about one another. The public toilet is a particular focus of attention. No one wants to clean the toilet, the shelter, the workshop, or the stove. Everyone expects the janitor to do it, but no one is willing to pay her for her work. The same people who would pay any amount for a small pack of cigarettes balk at giving the janitor even a few pence. The meat is still salty. Today we had a stew with cauliflower. I have no idea where the women managed to get the cauliflower. Another great excitement, people saw German planes dropping packages with parachutes. The packages contain ammunition and medicine, and now, of course, they believe this will win the war. Our street is now full of military vehicles. I was furious when I saw these wrecks. Nearby, some anti-aircraft guns started firing. It was horrific. All of this fills me with anger, but also fear, because it makes our area an even bigger target for the besieging planes to drop their bombs. Every 5 minutes, someone reminds you of something: please stand somewhere else, don't sit there, don't leave the tap running, please, don't wash here right now. Ilonka says there's already an epidemic in the ghetto, and that the water, which is still trickling in some places, like in our workshop or on certain ground floors, is coming from the Danube and might be contaminated with typhus. As soon as I heard this, I immediately became thirsty. Without tea, we would barely survive this cellar life. He's the one who brought us kerosene, candles, meat, and batteries. Today he brought a huge amount of loose tobacco and distributed it. Everyone received 2 kilos, for free, of course. Some people lie down all day, sometimes even sleeping. One man, who works in a military post, sleeps until 10 a.m., then takes an afternoon nap as well. Down in the shelter, there's a thermometer. I checked, it showed 8 degrees Celsius. A young man, who attended the Ludovica military academy, said today that the Russians are already in Neplijet and have taken Kispest.
Miksha Fenyő.
66-year-old writer, lawyer, co-founder of Nougat, former member of the Upper House, and former Director General of the National Association of Industrialists. Pest, District 8, Haransky Street 11. Today, I read in the newspaper. To the heroically enduring people of Budapest. Hungarians. Brothers. The Bolshevik Jewish military command promised Russian soldiers 48 hours of free looting if they captured Budapest by January 1st. By God's will and thanks to the self-sacrificing help of our German comrades, they failed. Etc., etc. Signed by the party commissioner appointed for the defense of Budapest. After nearly 3 months of unrestricted looting by the Arrow Cross, this threat from the party commissioner no longer frightens anyone. The food supply issue has been solved with 3 measures. 1. It was announced that there are 3,000 slaughter cattle at the public slaughterhouse for Budapest supply, to be distributed by butchers 3 times a week. Those who dared to visit the butchers today, the first day of distribution, either received nothing or were given some foul-smelling bones. Incidentally, my brother-in-law, who sought refuge at the slaughterhouse this morning, found it completely destroyed. Not a single living creature was there, neither man nor cattle. 2. A decree was issued forbidding anyone to obtain food by any means other than with an open order from the Public Supply Commissioner. 3. Georgi Moiros, a resident of Budapest, was summarily executed by a patrol of the Arrow Cross Party Hungarist movement, on the orders of the Arrow Cross Party's military commander, for exceeding official price limits. How much longer can we endure? I have no news of my children. Last night, in my dream, I saw their house burned to rubble, but they were sitting cheerfully on the ruins.